If your life is affected by multiple sclerosis or any other lifelong disease, then this channel is for you. So please consider subscribing to make sure you're notified of future videos. In this video, I wanted to talk a little bit more about how MS affects mental health. Of course, when you get diagnosed, it can be completely overwhelming. It's a life-changing, lifelong diagnosis and something that suddenly changes the trajectory of your life. It might change things that you wanted to do, plans and dreams and aspirations that you might have had. The first thing you might think of is, are we still able to fulfill those ambitions and still carry on life as normal? And the answer in summary is no. Obviously, once you have your diagnosis, once you know the condition that you're living with, your life does change because you have to make changes and you have to make adaptations. Things that you've lived with before, you now know what they are, and you suddenly have to accommodate them and adapt your life to make sure that you can, like I said, always work with your MS or whatever condition that you might have. And I want to stress the importance now of talking to people. I think what happens to a lot of people post-diagnosis is they become I think what happens once people have a diagnosis is it's quite common to see people to sort of become a bit of a recluse, and you want to bottle things in. You don't want to talk about it necessarily because you don't think that people understand. And in a lot of circumstances, you're right, it is a very complex disease, and understanding yourself is challenging, let alone for other people that don't really know what you're going through. So yeah, the easy thing is to bottle that up, and I'm really stressed. Don't do that. People do care. Sometimes it's, they might not talk to you in the way that you want them to. They might not ask the questions that you want to because they might not really know how. They don't understand, and they don't want to upset you or offend you or cause any other stress or anguish. But the best thing to do is to tell those people, if your family aren't asking the right questions or checking in on you in the right way, tell them exactly how you feel and how that you want to talk about it. In what way you want to talk about it. Do you want to be asked all the time? Do you want people to check in with you? Let them know. It'll help them to understand how best to support you, because if people don't know, if you don't know how you need support, then how do other people know? And there will be circumstances where people just aren't interested. They want to, bury their head in the sand and pretend it's not affecting you so that their life isn't impacted by that. And that's a shame. There's not always a lot you can do about that, but educating people on the right things to say and how or when you want to be spoken to or checked in with, I think is really important. Another thing that's really helped me, and if it's available to you, it's available in the NHS, is having some sort of therapy, because talking to a professional who's sort of outside of your situation directly, but is very knowledgeable about the circumstances that you find yourself in, can be really, really helpful and supportive. I first started working with a neuropsychologist who specialised in multiple sclerosis and how it affects people, so that when I was talking, they were able to sort of answer those questions that I had with knowledge and understanding of the condition. And I think, if there's not a neuropsychologist available to you, then even just a psychologist, someone who can perhaps, translate what you're saying and understand it from a perspective, a medical perspective and a coping perspective, it's going to be really helpful. I was really struggling, and I found, I said to my neurologist and I said to my therapist that I felt really guilty because I kept thinking to myself, I wish I didn't have multiple sclerosis, I wish it was cancer. And I know that's an awful thing to say, and it was really troubling to me because, my life's been affected by cancer as other people's have. Family members have had cancer, we've lost family members to cancer. It's a truly awful disease, and it robs people of their future, and is a terrible thing to have to live with and battle. So I felt that guilt, but my therapist was able to kind of translate that to me and actually said, it's perfectly fine that you feel that way. I felt that I would rather have cancer because, statistically I'm either going to live or I'm going to die, but I'll either, beat it or I won't, and that'll be it. And I was almost happy with that. I thought I'd rather die or beat it and carry on as normal, whereas multiple sclerosis is a lifelong condition. It's something I live with every single day. I have good days and bad days, but the good days, are still a struggle. So there was that resentment and anger and grief to the life that I had, and to me, the way I articulated was I wish I had cancer instead. And having thought that and spoken it out loud, I then harboured this guilt and this horrible feeling for what I'd said or the things I was thinking. But a therapist was really helpful and able to kind of reassure me that actually it's quite all right to think that. No one can tell you how you feel necessarily. and you know, it's completely understandable that you would think something along those lines and don't feel guilty. And the other thing that I often said was, I know people have it worse. I know there's people who have MS that have it worse than I do, or there's people that, you know, live in extreme poverty and lots of other things. I said, I know it could be worse. I know people have it worse. And my therapist said, you need to stop talking like that. Yes, there will be people that have worse conditions than you. There will be people that have more struggles than you do, but you still have your struggle, and you're entitled to feel the way you feel. You're entitled to grieve and to be angry. So if you're struggling, I would really recommend talking to your family and your friends or colleagues, those that perhaps you have questions for, or you think perhaps aren't helping in the way that you think they could do. Talk to them. I promise you, the worst thing that could happen is it stays the same, or they, you know, perhaps show the true colours and they're not really interested, they don't want to support you. But one of the positives that can come from it is that you might build that support network. You might have more people that you can talk to, and you do have those bad days, because you will, very, you know, often. But also, if it's available to you, you know, speak to your MS nurse, or speak to your neurologist, or if it's another condition you're living with, speak to your healthcare professionals. Perhaps look at having some therapy, speak to a psychologist, or wherever it might be. If there's things you're dealing with and harbouring and struggling and carrying, don't bottle it up. Particularly we see now, you know, in men, there's a very high suicide rate, and if your life is, you know, it has changed drastically and you're struggling, you know, you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders, halving that by sharing it with someone and helping someone to kind of help you understand it is only going to be a really positive thing. If you've had therapy and it's helped, or even if you've had therapy and you found it didn't help, leave me a comment, let me know. I'd love to gain your perspective on how you've coped mentally with your multiple sclerosis, and whether talking to someone, whether it be professional or not, has helped. So let me know. If this video was helpful to you, or you want to see more content in the future, please hit the subscribe button, give the video a like, and join our community. I will leave a link in the comments as well to a Facebook group that we've started, which is also Living with MS, where hopefully those of you that engage with videos and want to ask more questions or want to talk offline, then we can do that via the Facebook group. So yeah, please check that out. And yeah, thanks for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one.